Mr. Kinnear.
Mr. Ford, just on behalf of the transit workers, I firstly want to express our disappointment at the fact that we have been extended an olive branch to you since last year's election to sit down and cooperatively discuss ways that we could potentially find savings within the TTC. Disappointing, but not surprising.
You've never called
As for the recommendations in the report, I hope the taxpayers didn't pay too much for this cut and paste collection of very old ideas. Basically, it says cut service levels and contract out whatever you can. You all must be slapping your foreheads and saying, why didn't we think of that? The one good part of the report is on page 162 when it is pointed out that the TTC's fare recovery ratio compared to the cost of operating the system is 70%, which is the highest in North America by far. In Montreal, for example, it's 47% and even lower in other large cities. Let me explain what that means. It means the members of our union operate the most economically efficient transit system on the continent, with the lowest taxpayer subsidy by far of any other urban transit system. We'd like a little credit for that once in a while. Speaking of transit subsidies, let me point out something that is not in the report but should be. Every day, especially on weekdays, an enormous number of people come into Toronto from the 905 communities that surround us and jump on the TTC. Go down to Union Station any morning during rush hour and watch the crowds getting off the GO train and into the subway. Every one of those commuters is subsidized by the taxpayers of Toronto, to the tune of about $1 a ride, coming and going. And Union Station is only one point of entry into our transit system. I don't know how many people from outside Toronto use the TTC every workday, but I'm going to guess that it's way over 100,000. If that's the case, Toronto taxpayers are paying about $50 million a year in TTC subsidies for people who do not pay taxes in this city. Now, we've got nothing against the good people of Burlington, Mississauga, Markham, Oshawa, or any other suburb who use the TTC. They probably don't even know that they're being subsidized by the people of Toronto, but they are, and it's costing us a lot of money and putting tremendous pressure on the system. So here we have the report that recommends eliminating the Blue Night routes or raising fares. Okay, let's penalize Torontonians who work nights and can't afford a car. The report also suggests making it harder for the disabled Torontonians to use Wheel-Trans service. I don't think that even merits a comment, except to say it's unbelievable that we would be even thinking about making life more difficult for our disabled citizens, many of whom are seniors. So, Mr. Mayor, one of your campaign slogans was fairness for taxpayers. Will you vote for TTC service cuts that will make life more difficult or more expensive for taxpaying Torontonians without seriously attempting to recover the huge subsidies we give to people who don't pay taxes here? I think the people of Toronto deserve an answer to that. Finally, on the subject of transit privatization, I have just one fact that was absent from the report. The report mentions that York Region has privately...
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Layton, you have 1 minute question.
Mr. Kinnear, much is said about privatization in the report, but little actual evidence is given. We've asked repeatedly across every department that suggests privatization. Can you enlighten us on the potential for privatization to reduce cost of public transit?
Well, we've done extensive research on different jurisdictions that have privatized their public transit system. If you go to YouTube, there's a video, Keep TTC Public, a lot of information in there about other jurisdictions. Melbourne, Australia, which is a city that's reflective of the size of ours, went to privatization a number of years ago. Their subsidy rates are 2 times the rate of Toronto, despite the fact they carry 1/3 less passengers. It does not work, and there is no evidence to support it.
You got another second. Okay, Councillor Perks, 1 minute.
Thank you, Bob. You said that you pointed out in quite an effective way that the advice we got from KPG certainly isn't worth the money, the paper it's printed on, let alone the money we paid. You said also that you were willing to offer the mayor free advice on how to save money in the TTC, and he's been unwilling to meet you. Would you say those two decisions put together are wasteful and inefficient?
I would. I mean, the fact is if you're looking at trying to find savings, you would think that you would speak with the frontline employees, the people who actually implement the service, who best understand the service. It's quite evident that Mayor Ford does not. Now, one other comment I would like to make as far as that goes is Mayor Ford indicated that the war on the car was over. He did not declare war on public transit and the people who utilize it. Maybe that's what he should have done and said and been upfront with the people.
Councillor Davis?
You started to comment on something about York Region. Would you like to expand on that?
Yes, York Region currently operates with private carriers. The subsidy rates up in York Region are in excess of $4 per ride. That is factual. That is information that has been provided to TTC commissioners, I believe, as well as all councillors. So that is factual information. And again, I must reiterate, Toronto Transit is the most efficient public transit system in North America. There is not another system that operates more efficiently than we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mahavik?
Thank you. Over here, Bob. Yes, I was wondering if you have any comments on the cancellation of the Shepherd LRT and the cost to the city and to the TTC?
Well, I think it's
There's a cost. There's a cost, obviously.
Well, I think it's extremely detrimental. I mean, there's been studies being conducted that looked at the congestion of Toronto, and I believe, and I'll stand corrected, that we are the worst congested city in North America, even worse than L.A. And there's an economic impact on the city when the city becomes stagnant and people can't move. It was very important. There was a lot of work and effort put into Transit City, and it's unfortunate that the new administration decided to just throw that in the garbage, I guess.
Thank you. Councillor Matlow, you got a minute.
Thanks. Through you, Mr. Chair, if you ever received an invitation from the budget chief or anyone here at City Hall who would be willing to have a conversation with you, not only about new ideas or old ideas perhaps that you've got to find efficiencies in upper management and elsewhere, but the possibility of finding reasonable concessions from within your own membership, would you be willing to have that conversation?
I'm willing to have any conversation with anybody. One thing I've never been accused of is being shy or reluctant to meet with people. I've got no problem meeting with the mayor, the chair of the TTC, or anyone else for that matter at City Hall to talk about the importance of public transit and to talk about the importance to the people of Toronto that the TTC provides and the service that
So
we
you wouldn't
provide.
suggest it's bad faith or anything. You would show up and you would have an open dialogue.
I answered that question.
Well, no, because I've
Thank you, Councillor Matlow. Councillor
not entirely.
Fletcher. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. Mr. Kinnear, you were going to say that something was left out, the KPMG report. Was that the cost of privatization in York Region?
Yes, they did not talk about the subsidy rates that York Region is providing to Veolia Canada and some of the other carriers up there. And I guess they conveniently forgot to talk about the actual cost and just suggested that it was a good idea with no factual basis for that.
So the selling of it, saying let's sell it, but not looking at what it would actually cost to provide subsidies to the private sector in order to run transit. Which
That's
would-
absolutely true. Had the report been forthcoming, I think that they would have indicated the level of subsidies that they're receiving up there.
Have you got a lot of studies of what happens to privatized systems?
We've got a lot of information.
could
We've
share.
sent representatives over to Europe. We've had representatives down in Australia. We've done extensive research, and I invite people to go to YouTube and watch the video, Keep TTC Public. Very informative.
And you'd be willing to share that in that type of forum that Councillor Matlow is speaking about?
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Councillor Fletcher. Any other questions? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, one way that I think that you could help us save some money is to reduce the absenteeism at the TTC. Have you given any thought to that?
Well, listen, it's management's responsibility to police those sort of things. We have a legal obligation to represent our members, and the fact is that it's the TTC management's responsibility to monitor that.
So they monitor, but you're not, as a union, not in any position to help lower that figure, because
We're always
there'd be
willing.
tremendous
If the
savings.
TTC management was willing to sit down with us and look at ways that we could improve efficiencies and potentially save the TTC money, we'd be more than willing to do that. But the TTC management, just like City Hall has become, are very unwilling and reluctant to sit down with us
So
because
you
they
think
probably
the problem-
don't want to
problem here
display
is
their
the management,
incompetence
then.
about
The problem is the
management.
management, not the workers. It's the management,
Yes,
that the workers are absent.
yes.
Okay, I got.
Any other questions? Councillor Milchin, a minute.
Just, do you and Councillor Stintz ever chat?
No.
No.
No, we had one conversation. It was on Dale Goldhawk's show. Other than that, other than saying hello in the hallway, Ms. Stintz has made it perfectly clear that she does not believe that it's her role to communicate with the employees on a number of occasions.
And not to get into too many details, are we not basically going through a bargaining process right now with the TTC?
We are in collective bargaining now.
And during that, do we not, management puts forward ideas and the union responds and the union puts forward ideas? Is that...
You're a commissioner, Mr. Milchin. You should talk to TTC management about the number of proposals that have gone back and forth and the number of days of constructive bargaining. It's not many.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir.
Yep.